Attachment fault line. How does it occur? What can you do to navigate it and ultimately repair it? Okay, attachment is how secure you feel in the world and in your relationship. So it goes back to when you were a child. All of us, when we're kids, we build attachment to our parents. If we have healthy parents, we can build secure attachment. Unfortunately, many of us don't have emotionally mature parents, and our attachment isn't so secure. So what secure attachment is that you know you have a solid home base with your partner, and when you were younger with your parent. So let's talk for a second about when you were a kid. So when you were a kid, you were little. And what you learned was my mom, and usually mom, because that's the nurturing parent, or my dad, my parents are my rock. I feel safe when I am with them, but I can go explore into the world and feel safe there too. Then I know that I can come back to my parents and they're always going to be there for me, and it's going to be safe and secure even when I adventure out. So in your partnership, what happens is you come into a partnership and you get married with the assumption and with the hope, honestly, that your relationship has secure attachment, that you are going to feel safe within it. And then you can move out into the world and explore and be confident and be the best version of yourself and come back to that safety, safe and secure, but still out into the world feeling like you can go conquer it. Now, many of us don't have those attachment styles. Many people have anxious attachment. Many people have avoidant attachment. Those are the two main ones that I'm going to talk about in this lesson. Now, you may have had secure attachment when you entered into the relationship. And I encourage you, your action step for this lesson is to think back to when you started this relationship. Did you have secure attachment? Did you feel like your partner was the rock and you could go into the world, rock out your best day, and come back to your secure partner? Many of us did. So what happens is addiction enters in. And what addiction does is it messes that up. So what happens is you, somewhere along the way, when maybe you've had some discoveries about your partner's sexual acting out, perhaps your partner's behavior has changed. So now it's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. You don't know which version you're going to get. In a codependent relationship, which most people have a codependency when it comes to addiction. Some people have disengagement where they just disengage, and that's avoidant attachment where they're like, you know what, you go take care of you and I'm going to take care of me. Disengagement, avoidant. Most people have some level of codependency where they are trying to get validation from their partner, but they also get validation from taking care of their partner. And as addiction takes hold, what happens to many female partners is they start doing more in their relationship. They start taking on more responsibilities in the family. And at a certain point, that can feel good to them because it feels like I'm in control, I'm in charge here, and your partner needs your support and you're there to support them. So what I want you to understand is we are not doing that in this recovery program. We are not staying in an anxious or an avoidant attachment style, which I'll tell you more about anxious in a second. And we're definitely not staying in a codependent relationship. What we are doing is gaining strength from the inside and moving forward in an interdependent relationship. So it is dependent upon your partner healing himself from the inside out. What happens in terms of anxious attachment is as addiction takes hold of your partner, you become more anxious about your partner's behaviors, especially if you have a sense of that something's going on sexually, especially if you've seen that your partner watches pornography and you've convinced yourself that it's not a big deal or you can deal with it and you're okay with it. A lot of men that I work with tell me my partner's okay with me watching porn. I know from working with the partners, they're not okay with that. They just can't communicate that to their partner because they don't want to let their partner down and they don't want to move towards conflict. And what we're talking about in this recovery program is gently moving towards conflict without stirring the pot for the sake of stirring the pot and creating drama and being all emotionally upset, but being able to move towards conflict in an intentional way so you move through conflict very quickly towards solution. And part of that is going back to figuring out who your authentic self is. Is your authentic self okay with your partner's acting out behavior, any of it? The answer is probably no, because you're here. So you don't have to feel anxious about your partner's behavior anymore, because part of this recovery program is he's going to clean up all those behaviors. You're going to start interacting and communicating in a better way. And in the last lesson, I talked about being able to see how if your partner's checking people out, but he tells you he's not watching pornography, and he tells you he's trying not to check people out, you're communicating about this now. So yeah, it still doesn't feel good. It feels yucky. But if you're communicating, you understand where you are in this process, so your world doesn't feel off kilter anymore. You don't know what's real and what's not. You are on the journey, and you can feel safe knowing that you and your partner are doing what you both need to do, and you're on this journey. The way you feel safe and secure is through communication. Number one thing, partners have to start communicating better. We all do. If you're in a coupleship, it's likely you need to start communicating better, because communication's hard and we did not learn it from our parents. Most of us did not learn it from our parents. So when you begin to communicate, you don't have to feel anxious anymore, because you're going to know what's going on. Of course, that's completely requisite that your partner's doing the work. But as you see it and you believe behaviors, then what happens is you can develop secure attachment. But if you've been in an anxious and an avoidant attachment for a while, that can be difficult. You have to relearn it, and hence the process and the relearning that's going to happen. So let me just summarize it, and then we'll move on. When your partner acts out sexually and is involved in sexual compulsion or addiction, it makes you feel anxious about his behaviors, whether you know what's going on or not. Your reality's thrown off. The fact that you are onto that and you feel anxious about it, your partner can feel that, and it makes your partner avoidant. That's the victim perpetrator, anxiousness, avoidance, going back and forth between the two of you, because there's not solid interactional styles and communication about this stuff, which is difficult. I also want you to know, I'm going to teach you more about this, that a sexual acting out addiction cycle is built on shame. We know this from the science. So your partner is feeling incredibly shameful. And even though he might want to share this with you, it brings up so much shame that it's so hard for him to tell you that this awful thing that he is stuck in, that he can't get himself out of. And so it's built on shame, and it perpetuates itself through shame. Shame is what feeds it. So when the victim perpetrator dynamics go back and forth, and on accident, because you're so hurt and so frustrated, you say something that creates more shame for your partner, it actually locks the cycle in more. That's why I want you to take anger out somewhere else. And sadness, you can handle the sadness that you're going through without him telling you it's okay. He needs to work on his shame, and you need to work on you. And when you do that, you can come back together. I tell you, it can happen. Okay. Move through, because I'm going to tell you how. Rupture and the opportunity for repair, and both partners must partake in that. So join me in the next lesson. I'll share it with you there.